Welcome to today's section. Here's section 2 of MarTech series. My name is Wai Peng from Infra Design, one of the hosts today. I am from Infra Design. Currently, we are developing and deploying a range of MarTech series to optimize each marketing campaign for our clients. We all need some encouragement during tough times. Staying in touch with industry friends and consumer because it keeps us in tune with the current market needs and also concern. It shows that the market is moving even during stressful times. That's why we have this MarTech series. Another partners on the line, Mr. Chua. Mr. Chua, you may introduce yourself. Now I pass the mic to Mr. Chua.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I'm the another host today. My name is Chua, the CEO of ProSales, a PropTech company that helps the property industry to solve the real-life problem by reinvent and streamline the traditional process with our solution. So by the way, today we are discussing on the lead management. Lead management is actually a process that bridging the gap between the sales and marketing. It is a customer inquiry process that involves of identifying the leads, whether it is a potential buyer or is either a quality or unqualified leads. Then for the salesperson to try to educate them, engage with them, and then when the leads are considered as qualified, then it will proceed to close sales. However, is your business today is following an organized and effective lead management process even during this MCO period? The topic we will be sharing today is on how to manage and optimize leads. Okay, without spending too much time, I would like to introduce our special guest today, Mr. Jeffrey Chan, the Chief Growth Officer from Sales Candy. So I would like to pass the mic to Mr. Jeffrey for his presentation.
Yep, thank you very much, Mr. Chua. Hi, I'm the co-founder of Sales Candy. Basically, what we do is next. It's kind of a sales tech startup that we're catered for property developers, insurance, banking within the Southeast Asia region. We have offices, with our HQ in Malaysia, and we have offices in Indonesia and also in the Philippines. So we kind of have scaled across Southeast Asia. Next. So I say what we do is we kind of, in short, we are kind of Grab as a service, but for salespeople, right? So let's say, for example, when some people submit inquiries on Google, Facebook, Property Guru, iProperty, Facebook Messenger, or even offline ads, they can actually route it instantly to the salesperson, and we actually track what the salesperson do on the phone as well. So what we did was we actually collated all our data and also as well we kind of analyzed our data in the sense we wanted to show exactly what has happened, pre-COVID, and also during the lockdown, and also what clients will be expecting during the post-COVID situation as well. Next. So of course, during this lockdown period, we do understand that there's a lot of uncertainties in regards to the sales process. So what we did was we studied about 500,000 leads in the past 4 to 5 months. And we came up with hopefully some helpful data that would help you drive your insights within the next quarter itself. Right? So if you look at the data itself, essentially, Malaysia has announced its lockdown in the middle of March. And essentially what that means, if you look at the chart over here, is we've seen that leads are steadily increasing. So there are a few factors over here, like let's say, for example, there could be clients increasing their budget in terms of digital ad spend, or we also wanted to find out exactly whether or not are there any factors that resulted in increase of these leads. Next. So when we dive deep into the day-in-day average breakdown, we saw such a huge increase over here, right? So let's say, for example, when you're comparing between February to March, in February itself, we saw a median of about 863 on that month itself, and in March, it spiked to about 1,300 median. And that's about a 50% increase from a lockdown period when it was announced, right? Next. So what we do at Sales Candy as well is as I mentioned before, is we also track the number of actions that coincides with each of these leads that go through our system as well. So if you think about it, a marketing funnel for a face-to-face, a lead to sale sales process is you have to call the prospect, subsequently follow up with a face-to-face meetup, and subsequently, of course, to go through like a booking system or whatnot, right? So essentially, this funnel itself is quite crucial in terms of tracking. Number one, if someone didn't go to the sales gallery or didn't meet a salesperson, essentially that is considered a sales lost, right? And so what we see over here is meetups were actually slowly decreasing, and it's been slowly decreasing ever since in the early March, right? And this was like 2 weeks even before the lockdown was announced. Next. And when we dive deep into these statistics over here, what we see over here is meetups are actually steadily decreasing 20% week on week, right? And this is on top of some of our clients pivoting to the new norm. What I mean by the new norm is essentially, if you look at it, countries like Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore is on a full lockdown, right? And essentially, the new norm right now is to actually sell via VR and also through con calls as well, because essentially now it's quite impossible to meet face to face anymore. So if you look at it, we did this statistics itself. Next. Essentially, if you look at the productivity of a salesperson, right? 50% of, let's say, a typical salesperson's time is spent on face-to-face meetups, and the rest of his 50% of his time is spent on follow-ups, like calls, WhatsApp, typical day-to-day operations. And if you look at the data over here, the interesting part is pre-lockdown and post-lockdown within the count of calls is somewhat has remained the same, right? It's as if it's business as usual, even before the lockdown and when during the lockdown. So the most interesting part over here is the question here is, if let's say, for example, 35 to 40% of a salesperson's time is spent less on meetups, where exactly is salespeople now currently spending the time on to increase their productivity, right? So essentially what we look at is, in order to essentially spike to balance it out with the count of calls, we recommend, let's say, for example, maybe perhaps it's best to reach out to your cold calls, your previously dropped leads, or best time is to contact those previously who wouldn't like to speak to you right now. That being said, if you look at the chart on the right, we also found that prospects were more willing to accept calls during this period of time. Essentially, if you look at it, typical call out to a prospect would hit somewhere between 2 to 3 minutes long, and an average of a returning call from the prospect hits even longer. It's 3 to 4 minutes. Next. And also the interesting fact was, we found out that 36% of these calls were usually missed from the salesperson, right? And of course, using our solution itself, you obviously want to know exactly whether or not these calls will return or not, because essentially these are quite engaged prospects for them to actually get a call back. Next. So we also wanted to find out, as I first started this insight session, is number one, why exactly is the lead volume increasing, right? So we dived deep into one of the platforms over here, Facebook, and we saw that cost per impression was actually dropping 20% week on week ever since the start of the lockdown, and this was especially true. I mean, if you look at it, essentially, if you look at countries that are in the lockdown, for a typical person, let's say, for example, we spend normally about 30 minutes on Facebook. Now, essentially, because of this, freed up time, we spend about 2 hours on Facebook itself, right? And what this means for advertisers is that essentially for someone on a typical day when I see 10 ads, now that when I'm spending 4 times as much time on Facebook, I essentially see about 40 ads, right? And if you couple that together with, the other advertisers who are shying away from the platform, for instance, like travel, oil and gas, hospitality, the likelihood of them spending 0 right now is very high, right? And so what that has caused is kind of a gap within the advertising market, right? Whereby there's just not enough people bidding for those ads and those keywords. And what essentially we've seen is you're able to bid at half the price, provided that you've resonated that message with the audience. The likelihood of you hitting somewhere between 30% to 70% cost and savings in terms of advertising is very high, right? So essentially right now, if you're spending that same amount of budget, do expect a spike in leads. Even internally as well, I think we've seen somewhere between 60% increase in terms of lead that we generate from ad sales candy, right? So next, as a summary so far, basically we do recognize, right, that leads are becoming ever more browsy. Even though there's an increase in lead gen, let's say for example, last month you generate about 1,000 leads, and then subsequently this month you generate about 2,000 leads. Eventually, this sales funnel will continue to be worse, right? If you look at it, one of the countries that just released their lockdown was China, right? And even them, they kind of expected that within the next 6 to 9 months, they won't be seeing any traffic in terms of going to retail, in terms of going to sales gallery. So what they did was they actually shifted a lot of their offline spend in terms of events and also like billboards and things. And they relooked at the strategy and they shifted all towards digital. And so what we kind of foresee is that within the Malaysian market is that once the lockdown is over, essentially that's where #1 platform where everyone will start flooding to, right? And essentially what we'll see is the cost per lead will start increasing, the cost per conversion will start increasing. Next. So what we kind of recommend our clients to track is all these available metrics. If possible, using Google Sheets, available software, or if not, part of sales candy as well. But what we do is we actually help our clients track, the available rate of the salesperson, whether or not the salesperson is attending to their missed calls or not. And of course, right now, I would say the most important metric to track is the total calls, whether or not they're hitting that productivity level within a day-to-day basis, right? It's because essentially, if you're having 20 salesperson dispersed across 20 homes, it's super tough to track productivity rate at that scale, right? And also, of course, how fast is the salesperson returning those calls to those prospects that eventually come in as leads. Next. So that's all for my presentation. If you'd like to know more, or want to get a sample of the sales action report, do contact me, or you can get this deck directly from Mr. Chua's Info Designs team. Thank you so much. Back to Mr. Chua.
Okay, thank you, Jeffrey. It's a very good sharing on those statistics and analytics on the impact of COVID-19 to the market. Here we have a few questions for you, Jeffrey. Based on the statistic, the number of digital leads seems like doesn't affect much for this MCO period. How you ensure the quality of registered lead through the technology?
Yep. So if you look at within our system itself, right? I mean, we allow our clients to track whether or not calls are going through, whether or not they subsequently has converted through a meetup or a con call. What we recommend is when you track those data, you can actually subsequently funnel those data back into a custom audience in Google or Facebook, whereby you can actually exclude. Let's say for example, I'm pretty sure one of the most common pain points that developers have is a lot of foreign worker leads, right? That currently submit. So what we do recommend is you include those emails or phone numbers into those exclusion lists, so you don't target them at all. In order to improve the targeting, what you can do is also include lookalikes of those foreign workers, so that even their friends are not targeted to at all as well. So on top of that, let's say, for example, if you want to target people who are willing to accept con calls, you can actually create lookalikes of customers who are willing to accept con calls. Yep.
Thanks for Jeffrey answering. Chua, you are also a tech guy, right? So people will always hope that they can maximize the lead conversion. This is what normally the business sales teams request. Is there any that technology can help in lead conversion?
Yeah, yes. Actually, in my opinion, relationship is important when closing a sales. When it comes to a purchase, consumer will not simply buy things with anyone. People will buy something from the person that they feel that they can trust. So to answer your question, what technology that can help is actually technology can help in two ways. The first, technology actually can help to close the gap between each other through the virtual communication. Just like today, we just sitting at home each other, then we can just join this Zoom section. Then this is what the technology can help, because that for a salesperson, they won't simply sitting with each other on the same table for whole day, just want to sell you something, right? There must be some follow-up action after that day. Then all these things actually can be done using a technology. For second is the visualization technology. A powerful marketing or the visualization tools is very essential for a salesperson to do a better presentation. This will makes the consumer to feel real and have more confidence on your products, especially during this MCO period. Thank you.
Thanks for your idea sharing. Jeffrey, another question for you. As we know that majority of your company client is on insurance and property industry, can you share with us some successful experience or cases from adopting lead rotated and management software in the industry? Jeffrey?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So what we're seeing so far is I guess we do have a few case studies, right? So of course, we do have one that is pre-COVID. We have one that is also like post-COVID as well, right? So one of the most interesting case studies that I personally have seen is, so we actually have one client, I won't name who. Basically, what they did was really nice in the sense, they kind of relooked into what they were doing in the next 6 to 9 months. And they kind of tripled down into digital, right? So they actually shifted all their marketing spend from events and also billboards, and they triple pumped their budget into those digital platforms. And in return, what they did was, because they knew that the productivity of the salespeople wasn't hitting that norm when there were a decrease in meetups. So what they did was they triple increased the budget and funnel triple amount of normal leads that they would to all the salesperson. And as a result of that, because of all the tracking they did through Sales Candy, they managed to finish one of their property projects.
Okay. With the lead generation initiative in mind, Jeffrey, what are some of the ways that you recommend to stay relevant to our audience with this COVID-19 in mind?
Yeah, so I think this question is quite unique to the industries. So maybe perhaps I'll just use, for instance, like maybe for insurance company, right? Or sorry, maybe I'll just use it for a property developer company. Let's say, for example, on a business as usual setting, right? You would typically use maybe rent guarantee, interest guarantee, right? So perhaps if you look at the COVID-19 impact, it's kind of changed how consumers look at high ticket purchase items, right? So essentially, if you look at it, maybe perhaps it's a good time to change from a return guarantee to a safety guarantee. And what that means is, let's say, for example, perhaps it could be a six months moratorium in terms of reducing interest rate. Because essentially, you look at it, that's typically what the audience would prefer to have, that kind of safety instead of a guaranteed return, right? Because you look at it from a B2B perspective as well, people are looking to cut costs and not increase sales, because essentially during this period of time, if you tell a travel company to increase sales, that's quite ludicrous, right? Yeah.
Now, thanks for the your answering. I think it's the time to make a conclusion for today's section. Jeffrey, can you do a closing remark to today's sections?
Yeah. So yeah, thank you very much for having me in this short talk. Thank you so much from Mr. Chua from Infra Design and Post Sales. Thank you so much for being a host as well, Wiping. Yep.
Thank you, Jeffrey, to serving as a special guest for Infra Design MarTech series. Your willingness to share with us your time and knowledge is much appreciated. We are fortunate to have you with us this afternoon. Chua, any from yours about the closing remarks you want to make?
Yes, actually, okay. A good leads actually can shorten the sales cycle and it will result in the growth or in terms of the sales revenue. So I think most of the people are more focusing on the leads quality instead of the leads quantity. But it may seem like a lot of work to be done to ensure the quality of the leads. But if let's say you have an effective system or solution and helps to keep track on the leads and try to optimize it from time to time, it will actually end up saving you and your team from wasting a lot of time on the unqualified leads. So during this COVID-19 period, actually one thing that we can learn from is you never know that what's going on next. So you must be able to adapt to the latest environment, the latest trend, and make sure you always keep yourself well prepared with the necessary skill and technology. So I think it's just stay home and stay safe, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chua, for sharing. Thanks everyone to spending time with us. I hope you enjoy and found the idea thoughts from these sharing sections, which is beneficial for you and help you in the digital transformations for your company. We have a MarTech series. If you join us, you have interested, you can join us and share your professional insights about your industry at our virtual space. For more information, you may send in your email to martech@infradesign.com.my. Coming up, we will have a MarTech series programs, which are coming this weekend, 25th and 26th. Saturday and Sunday will be have a Mandarin versions, which Malaysia first children reality shows for the students recruitments for X-Camp training. Next Tuesday, we will have another section with have sharing about the digital marketing info, which Mr. Victor Chin from Sharp Spring Asian Country Partner will share with us how you can reduce your ad spend and increase the incoming leads for your marketing purpose. Remember to scan the QR code on the screen to register for your participants. Thank you for your time today. Stay healthy and safe. See you in our next sections of the Zoom. Bye. See you.